right. Hey, what's up, everybody? Joshua Casper here with Beatport and Plugin Boutique for another studio secret session. And today is extra special because I'm joined by not one, but two music giants, Mark Knight and James F. Reynolds. Gentlemen, how are we doing today?
Pretty good, thanks, Joshua.
Good,
How are you?
I'm all right. A little bit of a struggle getting this thing up and running today, but we're here. We should be live. Let us know in the chat if you can hear us loud and clear. And James and Mark, can you just start by giving us sort of an introduction to who you are and kind of how you know each other? Like, where's the relationship come from between the two of you?
Wow. Well, you guys may know me for making one or two records and sort of running around the world, putting them on at the weekend, and obviously touring records where we are now. That's me. James, I'll let you.
Yeah, I've just been sort of helping people make records as a mixer and producer for the last sort of 25 odd years. So, worked with everyone, including Mark. I guess that's how we know each other, right?
And yeah, I kind of crossover is more in the pop world, isn't it? That's where we worked together a lot.
So dance crossover kind of vibes.
Yeah, we produced records and written records for Calvin Harris, Tiny Temper, Flow Rider, Icona Pop. It goes on and on, but yeah, we kind of interface, and we've been mates for years and years and years. But that's our kind of touch point, really. When I'm doing the kind of more undercover's the wrong word. The kind of more pop production stuff. We're very much a team in that world, aren't we?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I started in dance and made a lot of house records for a lot of years, behind the scenes, and then moved over into the kind of dance crossover world, and worked with Shane Codd and Disciples and loads of people who do those sort of more crossovery records, I suppose. But yeah, it's good.
And to spare James the blush, he's probably one of the best mixers in the world. I mean,
thank you, mate.
Mixed everyone from BTS to
BTS
and back again. So yeah,
split up.
There's quite a few BTS credits on the site.
Well, they did say they weren't happy about the last album, sonically.
That was a ride. That was 7 years from nothing to biggest band in the world. Hell of a ride. But yeah, K-pop is a whole new level of mixing. You're talking 250 stems, which isn't quite the same as maybe many dance records.
How many do you say?
About 250 I've had at times.
What's happening? Like, why is it so many?
Well, because there's a lot of singers in BTS, so and then they're layered a lot. So you're talking maybe 150 channels of vocals, and then their production levels are insane. They tend to layer a lot and get and the thing about a K-pop record is it's an amalgamation of hip hop and dance and R&B all in one record. So you're not kind of getting fixed parts and then they're sort of coming in and out through the period of its life. It suddenly goes to a whole new section, which is a whole new song almost in itself. So yeah, you end up, usually I mix a record in a day, BTS record, 2 days at least, just de-breathing and nuancing and tuning and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a long job, but
involved.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's us. That's how we know each other.
Yeah.
And we decided to kind of further our relationship and our endeavors into something a bit deeper and a bit more involved.
Which is
2 years ago.
Obviously a segue into what we're here to talk about today, which is the new plugin, Infinite. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you tell me sort of the progression of the idea, maybe who came up with it first and how we got from that initial kind of aha moment to where we are now, where it's actually already been released and is available on Plugin Boutique?
It's a kind of amalgamation of ideas, having both spent the best part of 25 years in the studio doing the same things over and over on a loop. We wanted to speed up that process. I think great plugins really
streamline your
workflow. That's when you get a great plugin, it allows you to do that and to stay focused on the main objective, that is production. I think in this day and age when you have to wear all the hats of producer, engineer, mixer, it's about appropriating your time in the right way, so ultimately and ostensibly you get the end product right, which is the vibe of the record. And it's very easy to get waylaid and bogged down in the engineering aspect of it and lose sight of the goal, and that's making a great record. So all of these I think the best plugins are the plugins that allow you, that simplify and speed up that process.
Yeah.
And we were probably doing something in the studio, and in one of our long conversations, decided that there were certain aspects of production that we'd done over and over again, and is there a way to simplify and speed that up?
Yeah.
One being delay shots, some really creative and interesting delay shots and throws that make your records that more
Yeah,
standard.
not just a bog standard delay shot, not like a quarter note or an 8-note delay, but most people, both of us for sure, when we're doing a delay shot, we think about way more than just the delay shot. We want to put a bit of reverb on it, possibly want to put an LFO after that delay shot, just stuff to keep it bouncing in the rhythm of the track, but just make it a bit more interesting, possibly format it. Just to make it a bit more interesting, I suppose.
So that was one aspect, and then transitions. Something that's a big part of my productions, as you're aware, is making that drama, those moments in your records that really have an impact in situ in clubs when you play them, that have that wow moment. That usually is an involved process requiring a balancing act of a multitude of plugins. Reverb, delay, high pass, and so on and so on and so on. And you do this activation, this process, every single record 3 or 4 times. And it is a balancing act of all of these different plugins open at the same time and adjustments. And we thought, how could we condense all of that into something that was more streamlined and allowed you, as I say, to stay more focused on the end product, which is making the record. And the idea of Infinite was born, really, wasn't it?
I guess so. And I guess to add to that, because as you'll come to find out when we demo the plugin later, there's 2 sides to the plugin. There's a very easy side where you turn the one wheel and then that's your effect there and there, then and there even. But what I thought was, and as Mark was touching on there, when you're doing a build, you are putting a series of plugins together. So you're doing reverb, delay, LFO, or whatever everyone has their own thing, and everyone creates their buses, and then they put these effects on those buses and they automate it.
Or
and
channels.
Buses.
Oh no.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. No, I'm joking.
Yeah.
It's an in-joke.
Yeah. And and then you spend a bit of time automating that, getting your automation curves right on each of those things, maybe intensifying the feedback on the delay. So after you've done that whole process, you've got a lot of stuff going on. And then the thought of having to do that every single time, I was like, surely there must be a way that we can still create these amazing effects. But once we've done it once, that's it. We save it and it's done. And then all we need to do the next time is turn on the one wheel and it's there anytime we want to use it. So you've suddenly saved yourself, 15, 20 minutes worth of work just making those incredible builds. And that was really the idea behind it, to give you control over your builds. And yes, you will spend the first time, if you want to go into the macro side, the programming side, the first time you use it, you'll spend time making that build that is your own. But then once you've done that once, that's it. It's saved and it's yours, and you can then just use it, rinse and repeat, I suppose.
Absolutely, yeah. And as James said, what we wanted to build into the USP of this is we wanted to talk to both ends of the spectrum in production. People at the beginning of their sort of production career, at the kind of more embryonic element of it, and then fully seasoned professionals. So that this plugin had the versatility to talk to both. If you are starting out and you do wanted to fast track to that kind of really intense build, it's a case of picking a preset that you liked and drawing one line of automation, and all the heavy lifting's been done. But on the other side, you can flip to the more complex element, get stuck into the macro element. There's a lot going on under the hood. Really get stuck in, fine tune it, and as James said, save it, and and that is yours. That is your bespoke, your own build that you can go back to and use over and over again. And look, we're not saying there aren't other products on the market that do this, but this really allows you to get in. And it doesn't lock you out of the process. You can really get in and not sound like everyone else, sound unique, and there's an infinite possibility.
Well, that was a good word to use, mate.
Just segued into that.
It was effortless.
Like a true, effortless. True radio professional.
Mark, I had a
it-
question from one of my colleagues, and I, in fact,
Yep.
flagged it myself when I watched the intro video for Infinite, that some of the transition effects were actually inspired by the transitions in some of your older records. And I was just wondering if you
Yep.
can give us maybe a few examples of tracks that you used for inspiration on some of the presets.
Well, that is exactly what we did. We kind of bottled up all the best moments, if that's the right phrase, all the records I've done in the past, and then turned them into presets. So there's real time. We know these things worked in real time, so we kind of went back over a bunch of my old records. Go, okay, what did I do on that record? Right, did that, and that. Okay, that's program that into Infinite and save that as a preset.
Yeah.
So yeah, I suppose over the last 18 months, most of the records that I made when this was in a real working state have been, all the dramatic moments, the build-ups, breakdowns, all of that have been have been made using Infinite. So I've been road testing it using it, and I know these things work. I'm working on a record, then I'm playing it at a festival at the weekend, and I know that the drama's there. So now that was the great advantage I had, was to kind of refine, go out, do it, play a record, go, yeah, this really works, come back or make the track or changes as and when necessary. We had that in our armory, that flexibility and that real time in situ use of what we were trying to make here, to go and test it, then come back and refine it. And it's been a 2-year process. I mean, we've never done anything like this before with James. It's like let's have a go moment.
It's quite interesting once you take that many effects and try and make them all work together, effortlessly. It's a lot of kind of programming and thinking and going back and saying, okay, we need to tweak this and tweak that, and it was a process. And I was the same. I've been road testing them in a lot of mixing I've been doing for quite a few artists, and it's always gone down really well. Mixes have worked, so that's fantastic. And I think the thing is as well, I mean, that you can use the plugin however you want to use it. It doesn't just have to be used for builds, does it? You can just use it for the pure effects and put it on a hi-hat channel just to create a bit more energy. We're using kind of subtle 6-note delay, 16th note delay, and a bit of distortion or something. Or, because, which I'll get into later when I show you how you program the macro, you could create an enormous sort of breakdown where the song winds down, then winds back up again using a filter over the duration of just turning that knob. So it doesn't have to go up or just down. It can do both over the duration of the automation that you draw on the knob, which I'll explain later.
And like you said, what took time is that we wanted the individual components of this multi-effect to stand up in their own rights. The delay is actually really good. So let's say you just want to use the delay. Go, look, I really like the sonic of the delay, and I really like the reverb. So it's like building 10 plugins in one go. So we really threw ourselves into the deep end. We didn't say, let's make a nice reverb. That would have been way too easy, James.
Yeah, way too.
Let's build loads of plugins that all try and work together with no latency and no issues.
Why didn't you say that at the beginning?
I don't know.
Well, I think you nailed it on the head.
I always said let's just do a reverb, James.
What I want to do is flip over and actually let you show us the plugin in action, if that's all right. Also, everybody who's tuning in, if you have any questions for James or Mark, just at Beatport Official, and I'll be sent those questions. We'll ask those in real time. But in the meantime, let's just flip over to see Infinite in action.
Okay, let's do it. Yeah, absolutely.
So should we? We're going to use the track that we've used for the promo video. We want to keep everything so some of you may have seen it, and we can show you what's actually going on that. Should we kind of bypass a couple of the effects? We'll play it to you, and then we'll play it back with the Infinite switched on, and then explain how it's working. I think that's probably a good way. Right. So I have I am using Studio One for those of you who are interested. Best door out there.
I'm interested in that, James.
See, Mark, I've been telling you for years, mate.
That's why I'm not doing the controls.
Big up to PreSonus there. And this one here. So I've got 2 instances of Infinite on the first part of the song. I'm going to bypass both of them, and then I will switch them both on. The first instance, which is just on the one knob side, that's going across a vocal here that's doing a kind of delay throw, and then the other instance is on the master bus. So okay, let's play it without it on.
No matter where you're from, all around the world,
Okay.
So as you can hear, there's some degree of drama there. You know, there's a bit of a white noise. There's some production, but let's up the ante here. Let's add Infinite and spice things up a wee bit.
Absolutely. Okay, cool.
So you've got, I mean, there is a degree, I don't know if you, as you can see on the screen, there's a degree of delay on the print of the actual vocal. But so we're going to add one Infinite across that.
Yeah.
To create a really interesting delay throw, and then one across the master bus.
And then what you'll see here,
drama.
just so I can explain as we're going along, for the period that I've just played back to you, there is just one line of automation which is controlling this side of it, going from 0 to 100, and you'll see that on both one.
So yeah, just to explain, because obviously we take it for granted. So you got the two instances. You got the complex side where you can see all the multi effects. Which is on the right hand side, and then you can see the simple side, which is just purely one knob.
Yep. So we'll start with both on the simple side. There we go. All right, let's play that now. You've probably forgotten, but after all that explanation, what it sounded like before we took them off.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's play with it on
Bit
again.
dry.
No matter where you're from, all around the world, it's one unique, one special vibe. One unique, one special vibe. One unique, one special vibe.
But instantly we're bringing the drama. You know, the delay throw, when we solo that, you'll be able to hear the intricacies of what the Infinite is doing. You can obviously hear that across the master bus that you've got reverb, you've got high pass, all of those effects. When we go across, we'll go into that more. But as you can see straight away, that's a fairly subtle preset.
Yes.
There's not thousands and thousands of presets. If you're looking for a plugin with 2,000 presets, this is not it. One thing we said at the beginning of this, start having sort of a blank slate as such to start from, is that we didn't want a plugin with so many unusable presets that confuses the issue. Let's condense it into 30 or 40 really usable presets that is enough for you to understand, and obviously then the flexibility to create your own.
Exactly that. So let's jump in a bit. Okay, so let's start with a delay shot, right? So if I just play that to you, I'm going to bypass the effects here. Bear with me 1 second, guys. Okay, so let's just play this back.
No matter where you're from, all around the world, it's one unique, one special vibe. 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 It's one unique, one special vibe.
Okay, so that's a really simple one that we've just done. We've got the delay set to 1 note, so it's literally just doing a straight delay around the 1/1 with the feedback set high. Let's switch in to the macro section, because you can see in a bit more detail. This is resizable, by the way, guys, so you know, just use it to obviously fit your screen. So here you can see a bit more of what I've done behind the scenes with this. So you've got all your 4 main parameters at the top here. You've got delay, reverb, crunch, and LFO. Fairly self-explanatory. Delay, with delay, you've got your different note timings. So, you know, anything from very quick, 64th, up to, you know, 2/1. So, you know, you've got quite a large range there. And then the feedback, which is obvious. Next is reverb. This is the mix on the reverb, so how much reverb you're dialing in, and then this is the reverb time, the decay time. So, you know, the more you push that over to the right, the longer the reverb will be. On the crunch, we've selected our 3 favorite types of saturation crunch. So you've got bit crush, transistor, and tape, and they all have, as I'm sure you probably all know, their own kind of unique qualities that create quite cool effects in your whatever you're using it for. And then you've got LFO, which is quite a cool effect, you know, especially if you want to kind of a delay to sound like it's ducking with the beat, or you just want to
sit in the mix.
Yeah, sit stuff in the mix. And again, you've got the mix of that, and then you've got the rate of the LFO. These are all interchangeable in what order they happen. On the plugin, the signal path comes in from left and goes to right. So the signal path will, at the moment, hit the delay, then the reverb, the crunch, and the LFO. if I decided to, I could put crunch first, and then we'll just create something slightly different. Every time you move these around, and they're all interchangeable, you can just create and nuance the kind of effect that you're going for. On the bottom is the fixed sort of master settings. So you've got a high pass and low pass filter here with a filter resonance attached to it. So, I'm sure you all know how to use that. Important part. And then you've got your formant. Again, for getting more kind of like out there with your kind of effects you want to do, you dial in a bit of formant. Width, Mark and I thought was quite handy, quite useful, especially if it's used in a subtle way.
Yeah, exactly. Especially in the end of transitions, I tend to do that a lot. It's it's to bring the width of the mix in, so you get that impact of stereo when it kicks back.
Yeah.
So again, it just feeds into the multi effects to create drama within what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. It's you can use it quite subtly and it still creates an amazing effect. It just makes everything sound bigger and better when it drops in. White noise is what it says on the tin. It's effects that's been knocking around for a few years.
If you bought any one of my records in the last 12 years, you would have heard this white noise. It's I've used it on every record I've ever made in the last 12 years. So again, it's things that have been used in situ and are tried and tested. So, and that what we try to do is to bottle up all of our knowledge and our experience and real time usage and condense it all into a very usable, simple plugin.
Where did you find that white noise, Mark?
UK.
Hey guys, I got a couple of questions if you don't mind.
Yeah.
One is, how do you set the LFO destination? From William Mind Readers on Twitch.
How do you set the LFO destination?
What do you mean destination?
Can you clarify on that a bit? I'm not quite sure.
William?
What do you mean by that?
Clarify in at Beatport Official, and we'll try to get that answer for you. Another question is, are you suggesting that Infinite should live on the master channel, or does it work better on a bus?
Oh.
Well, what we're trying to do here, and this is the ultimate dream for us, that this, and it's in my startup template, that I've got it across all my different buses. It's already loaded straight on, because I know at the end of the first breakdown, I'm going to do a build up, there's going to be that bit of drama. I know there's going to be one after the second build up. So it's already across, my template arrangement. That's what we're aiming for. Blue sky thinking. We would love this to be.
There's no rules.
The go-to thing you've already got preset. Instead of having to load a whole bunch of effects on your buses and then do the juggling apps and obviously hammer your CPU. It's all condensed into one plugin. So the idea, and as I say, blue sky thinking for us, is that it would be part of your go-to template you would have across all your buses. But then again, as I say, if you want to have it on a delay throw on something on a vocal, make that non-standard. Anyone can put a delay on it, but it's those details. It's especially from an A&R perspective, wearing my other hat. It's all of that detail I listen to in records that make records stand out. Someone's being creative, taking a bit of time out to go, oh, wow, that's really interesting what they've done with that delay throw. So you can use it in both instances across the channel. But ultimately, we would love people to have it across all their particular groups and then one perhaps over the master.
Yeah, it's like, give you an example. If you're doing a build, but you want the drums, you send all the drums to a drum bus, and then you have the rest of your song just going to another bus, and then both those feeding into master. You could do something where maybe you filter the drums, but you don't want too much other than a filter and maybe a 16th note delay to get those sort of bouncing around. But the rest of everything else, you want to do a high pass and a reverb. So it just creates this kind of cool effect, but they're not all treated in the same way, But like Mark says, use it however you want to use it. I hope that.
That makes perfect sense. I'm wondering if, how do you feel about using this in a live performance? Do you think that would fit that?
Do you know what? This is 100%. Again, it's very much influenced, or I've drawn inspiration from the RMX that I use a lot in my sets. And who knows where this can go? Obviously, being our first plugin, we wanted to make sure this, was fully functional and it worked seamlessly. Then there were no bugs before we kind of elevated its potential. But very much so, there's no reason why, you couldn't have a version of this, a hardware version, very much what Pioneer did on the RMX, which I think is brilliant, by the way. A version of this that you could have live. You know, again, you'd have all your presets done, and you could build that before you went out and play. Maybe that's a conversation that Pioneer. Brian, please give us a bell.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Another question is, someone's wondering what those parameters are on the right side, as well as that graph.
I'm about to get into that. So shall I carry on with what I was doing? Okay, so I was just going to talk you through this quite simple delay shot that we did here. So, we've been along across all the parameters. The only one I didn't talk about was gain, which is obvious, and you can draw that in. We do have a clipper on the master, so to stop it from sending your master bus over, so the signal will be clipped. But I actually think if you get into sort of programming your macros, you can see here I've programmed the gain up. So let's jump into that. So firstly and fundamentally, the vocal is delaying. So whenever you select anything on the plugin, it will then bring that window into your macro section here. Now, let's start from the very beginning. You switch the macro section on by clicking here, and then you switch that particular parameter on by clicking here. And then what you do is once you've got your mix like that, you draw in a parameter line, for example, like that.
This is if you want to program your own. This
Yeah.
is like you're not using a preset.
Yeah.
You know, you're going, right, let's create my own bespoke delay throw.
Yeah. And then you can create nodes, so you can nuance how that mix is coming in, or if you want, you can just, drag the lines to create sort of gentle curves up and down. So if I press play, you'll see that this delay mix is kicking in over a period of time. So let's just, I'm actually going to want that to kick in like that. I'll explain to you why in a second.
No matter where you're from, all around the world, it's one unique, one special vibe. 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 It's one unique, one special vibe.
Okay, so that's a super simple one. The reason I did this was because I wanted the delay to kick in fairly quickly, because I want, off the back of where I've drawn the automation up here, it already to be delaying. So you're hearing that delay. So the delay mix is sort of kicking in and building, and then the timing of that delay, as you can see, is the same the whole way across. You can change it so the delay time changes. Then I have got a high pass filter sort of working up during the duration of that automation as well. And we can alter that slightly. I actually think as well the resonance could possibly get a bit more towards the end. And when you're playing this back, you'll see a little yellow line moving across, and that shows you where the one knob side is relative to all the macro you're drawing in. So if you want to nuance something and you think, oh, right here at the build, it's not quite right, it's too much or it's too little, you can just grab that point and then move it up or down and create another node. So,
and just to explain, we're going from a preset. It's a preset, as you can see, called Kuroko. And as James says, look, we've spent a lot of time working on this. They're pretty damn good, these presets. But let's say there's a part in it, as you say, James, it clashes with something else that's going on. You want to nuance it, you want to change it, make it that wee bit more bespoke.
Yeah.
It doesn't lock you out of the process. It allows you to go in and fine tune that. But you don't, save it as a new preset.
Yeah.
It might be slightly better than ours, fill your boots.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, absolutely. And let's say, for example, with this one, I just wanted to narrow the width a bit towards the end, like Mark and I were talking about. So I would select the width knob like that, turn it on, and at the moment you can see it's on full width all the way along. I'm going to drag it, but I don't want it to happen straight away. I just want it to go down subtly towards the end. So let's check that out.
Unique, one special vibe. Unique, one special vibe. Unique, one special vibe. Unique, one special vibe. Unique, one special vibe.
Cool. So we can get let's see if we can get here is one we made earlier, a bit like Blue Peter.
Well, yes, exactly.
So here's one that's way more full on. A lot of programming going on it. Let's just play it through. So you can hear. Let's just trigger it from a tiny bit earlier.
It's one unique, one special vibe. It's one unique, one special vibe. It's special vibe. It's special vibe. It's vibe. It's vibe. It's vibe. It's vibe. It's vibe. It's vibe.
So you can see there's a whole load of things going on. We've got a bit of saturation coming in with the transistor, sort of kicking in. I actually thought it came in a bit too quickly, so I'm going to nuance that and bring that down a tiny bit. Delay, we messed around with this one and we got it to stagger up and change timing, so it was speeding up as it was as the whole thing was building, which sounds pretty cool. I'll play it to you in context of everything else in a second. The resonance on the filter is going up, so as you know, as the high pass is coming up, it's getting more resonant. Not much format. I'll put a cheeky bit of format in there, I think, actually, further towards the end. So gain here, I've kind of brought it up, and then I'm just controlling it a little bit at the end, as you can see. There's LFO kicking in on a 16th note, which is just making it sound a bit kind of wavy, kind of juddery towards the end, I suppose. We have reverb building up. White noise should be, I think we'll put a bit of white noise on there as well.
Yeah, and to draw a curve, you just grab the line underneath it and pull it down.
Yeah,
and it starts to curve.
So that is a lot of stuff going on there. One thing you need to remember when you're programming, and this is quite important, when it comes to the mix side of things, when you're drawing in automation for mix, you want the first node to be set at 0. So, and then you can go up immediately. But what it means is when the one wheel side goes back down to 0, effectively that is switched off. So you can have a transition that when the automation goes back down to this point, nothing is on, it stops. And you just remember that with your programming. So you just put a node there and then you put the next one up there. Let's have a listen to this one in context with the track.
So there you go. You could spend best part of half an hour trying to create that with a multitude of plugins, or you can dial up one of the presets we've made. Yeah. And it's the devil in the detail with these records that make you stand out as a producer. Yeah. You could just put a bog standard delay on it, and of course that works. Yeah. It works. Delay works. Or you could use Infinite and use something that's really more bespoke and standout, and that's what we've tried to do. We've not made them so ludicrous that they're not usable. They're the kind of things that and we've bottled down and refined ideas that you've had in records, I've had in records. We've gone through all the projects and that was a really interesting piece of production. How did we do it? Let's program that into Infinite. So these are things that are genuinely be used in records, and I know that work. So it's just the detail that it gives you and the speed. As James said, you can get heavily involved in the kind of macro aspect of it, or I could be on a plane going, this weekend I'm flying from Dallas to LA. I want to do a quick edit. I've got an hour and a half flight. Right, go. You want to do so. You haven't got the time to get into that level of detail. But with Infinite, all the heavy lifting, all of that is done. So I can come up with something that sounds like it's about to take me a whole day to do, and bang it out in a flight, and I know that it's going to work, and I know it's not going to clip and distort.
Well, it actually took you 2 years to do it. In reality,
it did take 2 years. Apart from the 2 years doing it, it only took me an hour and a half on the flight. So. No, as I say, we've done all the heavy lifting in the background, and to give you opportunities, whether you want to get involved and really detailed, or you just need instant gratification. It's straight there for you.
And just jumping back in, I've obviously tweaked this setting slightly. I can just hit save, and then I can overwrite the one that I made earlier. You can do a save as, and then this will give you your folders, and you can create folders with your own up risers, downers, whatever you call them, delay shots, and just start creating your own collection of super quick, great effects that you can then just jump into.
James, we had another. I got a couple of questions, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. Fire away.
So the automation window you have there, is that a set time limit, or can you adjust how long that window lasts?
No, that's not set. So how this works is this one knob is, let's go to this track here, okay? That one knob is going to go from here to 100 over that duration. But I could make it go from there to 100 over
32 bars,
32
64
bars,
bars.
however long you want. And
It's
then
all
that
relative.
is all relative to the macro section. So that is effectively 0 on this side, and that is 100. So you can make the transition effect as short or as long as you want.
Nice.
In a minute, we're going to get into more complex breakdowns. So, I mean, this is just over a delay shot, and hopefully that's painted the picture of what it can do. You know, we could go through 1,000 different presets and showing the versatility of it.
Yeah,
that's for you to discover. That's for you to get under the hood and get and play with it and get stuck in. Let's show you its application and use in transitions.
Yep.
Let's start with something that's highlight a more simple transition and what it can do, and then let's get into some of the more bonkers stuff.
I have another question just while we're switching it up here. Is there,
of course.
How do we put a release on there, or is it going to be a hard stop every time, or can we adjust and put a release on all of the different parameters by using that graph? Like,
you could have. That's a good question. If you were talking about a release in the sense of
the reverb release, or the delay line fading out.
Release, you could automate it so that it doesn't come crashing down to 0 here and comes down to halfway and fades down, and then you can have that drawn on the macro section here. So you can automate it to do that. Absolutely.
So it'd be more like a triangle essentially in the graph there, and then you would essentially automate 100% is 50% on the big knob, and then you could fade out. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. It's kind of the imagination. Your imagination's your limitation on this, really.
Yeah.
It's you can do whatever you and probably find stuff that Mark and I haven't even figured.
Well, that's it.
Exactly.
Every time I use them, oh wow, that's cool, and I'm saving off and getting more and more presets and ideas. Hence the name Infinite.
I was going to ask you what the possibilities were, Mark.
Limitless.
You guys are
Our next plugin is coming.
There's already a plugin called Limitless, I'm afraid to say, mate.
All right, scrap that.
Yeah,
I never liked that idea anyway. Right. Okay, let's get into the kind of transitional aspects of what it can do. Yeah.
All right then. So, let's play this. I'm going to mute the vocal out for a second. Play through the transition with this effect on, and let's see this. Let's take it from the top.
So, as you can see, there's quite a bit of drama there. It's not completely bonkers, but there's enough to make your record have a moment in a club, There's quite a bit going on there. Let's break it down and go through what's happening in that transition.
Yep. So we have got, again, in no particular order, we've got crunch. So we've got a bit of tape saturation sort of slowly coming in just to make it sound a little bit more aggressive towards the end of the build there. We've got delay on the mix. It's sort of going up sort of on an exponential curve, and the delay is set to 16.
Snare roll type feel.
16th is really great for creating kind of that energy, isn't it? Really. So yeah, we've got it set to 16ths with a decent amount of feedback going on, so it just keeps tripping over itself. Gain, we just went through and kind of tuned it to what we thought was the right level before it kicked in.
Yeah.
That's a taste thing. Bit of a high pass filter with a resonance affecting that high pass filter, and then there's a bit of reverb kicking in. I was actually just thinking it'd be quite nice to kick a bit of white noise in with that as well, actually. So I think we will put.
And there are, obviously, as you start to, these are all kind of graded in intensity as you go through. We've just picked one randomly.
I wonder if it'd be good to try going down with the white noise, so it sounds like a.
Try it.
Yeah. So what I'm doing here is when it kicks in, it's actually the white noise is going to go down and then come back up again. So just subtly, but let's see how that works.
you're getting, it's like you're getting effects already. You're getting like a splash on the one as it breaks down, and then obviously you're getting a white noise. So it's you wouldn't even have to put any effects into the arrangement. Again, if you're doing an edit and you want to be super quick, you're flying out in a cab, or you're on the way to on an airport on a flight, and you want to bang something out. You don't even have to go through that. It's literally just automation within Infinite. It's it's bringing all the drama.
Yeah, and as you can see, when I was playing it through, I was actually adjusting that whilst it was playing. I think once you get, kind of used to the plugin and how all the effects work, you can just sort of play it through and tweak things up and down as it's playing, and you can be super quick. I mean, I can program transitions pretty quickly now. And then you can take as much time as you want to just fine tune them until you feel like you've got your own ultimate effect for whatever you want it for.
That's right. I mean, because every track's going to react slightly differently because the sonics involved and how they interact,
exactly,
and how the effects interact with those frequencies. So there might be the slightest amount of adjustment within the presets to suit, but you're not locked out of that process. You can go, I just want that to tail off a bit quicker, or I need just a wee bit more. And it allows you the versatility to do that. Or you go, wow, that just works. So you've got the options.
And what I find quite interesting about it, and I maybe I just as I touched on earlier, with effects shots and stuff, I love effects shots that just morph into other stuff and just are really interesting. And you can do this, and they can do it over a period of time, and it's just very cool to be able to do that, because it's like, no one really does that much, where you have this delay and it starts morphing into something else, and it's just cool and make you stand out a bit, I suppose. Should we go to a slightly more bonkers?
Let's dial in some bonkers, shall we? Let's show one that breaks down and builds back up again to show, because that's the kind of more conventional build up. So let's show what it can do in terms of adding all the production required to break down and then build back up again.
Okay, so let me just find what I need here.
Is this a track that people can find somewhere, or is it just built for the demo?
We finished it. It's about 32 bars. It's about 64 bars long at the moment.
That's all we need, Mark. It's a banger. That's all we need. 32 bars.
Do you know what? Even the guy I do a spinning class hit me up and said, where can I get that track you played on Instagram? I was like, well, I better finish it in all fairness.
We haven't really discussed that, have we?
Although we have heard it 64 million times.
Anyone want to finish it for us?
Yeah. Perhaps we should run a competition and finish this record.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a bad shout.
Someone's wondering what types of reverb do you have in Infinite, or is it just one type? Is it a spring reverb, plate reverb, digital, etc.?
No, it's a kind of a whole kind of reverb, I'd say. We didn't want to get too specific with having a spring or
because it's more of a wash effect. It's I would, if I had to draw a comparison, and I think it's I think it's an absolutely brilliant reverb. We've modeled it on
Valhalla.
No, this one we did. Well, somewhere between Valhalla and, my brain's completely gone.
Fusion.
Yeah,
Fusion Field.
Yeah. It's a kind of a more washed effect. That's why it is a more of a whole effect, as opposed to, otherwise we're gonna have to get really into the idea is that this is used to create drama, and in most instances of creating drama, that's the kind of reverb you choose, as opposed to a spring, or a plate or something like that. You want that enormity.
Big room reverb, is it called?
Indeed, to create that
big verb.
To create
nice. Patent pending.
That transition, that drama, that flip between wash and punch. That's why we didn't get too involved with various different types of reverb.
There's another question. If you go ahead.
Sure. No, I was going to say it's a fine balance between putting all these features in and then making it too much with, at some point we could have gone on forever saying, well, let's have all these different types of reverbs, and maybe that's a discussion for the future. Who knows?
Version 2.
There might be add-ons. You know,
Yeah,
exactly that. So you're always open to ideas and suggestions. So
Yeah.
keep them rolling in for sure.
So someone's wondering about the signal chain, and I think just looking here, it's reroutable, correct? But maybe just go through that real quick if you haven't already.
Yeah, it flows. Yeah, it flows from left to right, as James said earlier, in terms of the path. But all of it is on the top end. It's all interchangeable. So you could start with one of our presets, rearrange it, and then,
Is it just
again,
drag and drop then?
literally just drag and
You
drop.
just drag the top like that, and
Perfect.
whatever you want to do.
And you can switch things off. So you go, well, actually, you know what? I don't necessarily need any. I'm just going to say, I don't need any saturation on this. I just switch the crunch off. So again, you've got flexibility within the preset to switch. If that's too much, you're like, do you know what? That's just taking it over the edge. Take that off. Or you don't want the LFO. That's all cool. You can remove that. But you like what the delay and you like what the reverb and the filters are doing, but you just don't want the LFO.
Yeah.
No big deal. Just switch it off.
And I guess to reiterate, all of the parameters underneath this section, so filter resonance, format, high pass, low pass filter, width, and white noise, they are all across the master bus. So they will go across everything that's above it. They will affect all the signal that's flowing from left to right, and and then into the master bus, into the master parameters below.
Gotcha.
I hope that helps. Cool. Should we crack on, or have you got any more questions?
Someone's wondering if there's an auto panner feature.
Not a panner. I mean, there's obviously width and there's LFO, but there's no pan per
We
se.
played with pan, didn't we? And we ended up with width.
We did, yeah.
There you go.
Just because we thought it's a more usable effect. Do you know what I mean? Pan very rarely
Especially in a club.
Yeah, very rarely in a mono system. Very rarely is that going to translate. Width just gives you that's a more usable aspect of that element of effect. So yeah, we did look at that, but we ended up with width, didn't we?
Yeah, well, I guess the other danger, especially if you're using this on a master bus and you're making a record for the clubs and you start panning stuff to the left or right, you're going to be in a whole world of pain because one side of the club might hear it and the other might not. I don't know if there's
I've never pulled anything like that off, across anything of scale.
Yeah.
You might be able to do with a delay throw, but no, it's something we didn't. Again, maybe we can look at expanding that down the line. But let's get into a more complex
okay, cool.
version of the breakdown. What's something that breaks down and builds back up again?
Cool. Well, I'm just going to play it first flat,
dry,
and then dry, and then let's kick it all in.
Not bad.
It's all right.
It's all right.
Don't need to plug in.
It's a 4.
Oh, all right. Let's have the plug in.
Matt.
Another thing which was quite interesting when we were developing it is we finished all of this. We had all the features in, and it was playing through, and it sounded great, but the knobs weren't moving, were they? Originally, we were like, oh no, we have to have all the knobs moving because it's so good because you can see what's going on with your plugin and
you like to be able to visualize,
Yeah.
that. Right, let's add in a preset that does a really crazy breakdown and build up.
So we've got 2 presets here. We've got one across the master bus and we've got one across the synth bus that's just messing around with synth. So let's play those 2 together.
I mean, that's a lot of programming, if you sit there and do that. It's not doable in a conventional sense. Of course it's not. I've done it a million times. But that's a whole lot of production and drama and creativity in one line of automation.
So it's
exactly.
you've got two plugins working in tandem there, and it's simply 2 lines of automation that are doing potentially 8 or more effects by using that one line of automation. Right.
3,
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
5,
Nice.
6, yeah, 7, 8, yeah, about that. So let's play the one. Let's solo. We'll just solo the synth bus, and you can hear and see what it's doing here. Let's do that. It's a lot of.
That's a lot of
stuff going on.
stuff. It's a lot of things happening.
So that is, yeah, that's full on, and you can see, you could hear all the kind of format going on there. You could see the the crunch turning up and
washing out and come. I mean, these have all been distilled from ideas and arrangements and things we've done in the past. As I say, that worked in my records and James's record. We've opened arrangements. What do we do there? How do we reinterpret that into a preset? So, these are tried and tested as opposed to just, some.
And I suppose this is a good sort of example of something that you can see here with the low pass filter. We've brought it down, but then we've brought it back up again. So, over the duration of this breakdown, it's not just done one thing. It's done a sort of, it's brought it down, really kind of created the tension, and then brought it right back up.
Washed it all out, so you lose the signal, and then it all comes back.
Yeah.
You've got the LFO winding up. You've got the delay timing changing, so you get that speeding up effect. There's a whole world of programming and processing going on.
Yeah, I'm actually going to put a bit more white noise from So I've just fine-tuned. I wanted it to get I thought it was dropping away when it was filtering down. The volume was dropping off slightly too much, so I've just nuanced that so that just stays, at a volume where you can hear what's going on. So I'm just fine-tuning. It's really interesting. You can keep tweaking and tweaking until you think, oh,
and James would tweak it to step where I would probably just draw it straight in and move on to the next.
It's the yin and yang that are called Mark and James.
Yes, I'll do the next track by now.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
exactly,
James, you're in the more technical, advanced one, and Mark's just using the knob on the front and just getting it done.
I'm the one knob guy, Joshua. The one knob was very much for me, and James wanted all this other stuff.
One knob has never been enough for me, Joshua.
I've got this far in life with just the one knob, so I'm happy with that as a process. I'm going to stick with it.
I think we should go down that route with the joke.
I've got more questions. We got some really good questions. Is this the plugin zero latency?
I would hope so, because we've been very
working on
vigilant about that.
Yeah.
And yes is the answer to
Okay.
that. And if you
go ahead.
No, I was going to say we've tested it and we've beta tested it with a lot of people.
A lot of our friends have used it. All the guys that are closely related to the label, they've had it for a while. Gave us some really good, interesting feedback. That's all been built in, to the process and rectified as and when necessary. So we'd like to think we're as close, but you never know. As I say, there's so many variations of what this can do. We certainly haven't tested absolutely everything because we'd never release it, but we're happy. But by all means, if there's ever an issue, please let us know. We'll be straight on it to rectify it.
So as someone who does these sort of live streams with people who develop plugins, the question always comes up about CPU and what it does to the CPU. So can you just give us a few words on what it's doing with the CPU? Is it light on the CPU? Is it, let us know what we can expect when we throw it in our DAWs.
It should be incredibly light on CPU. I use so many plugins. I'm an absolute plugin nut, and and I also realize how debilitating it is when you have a plugin that's heavy on CPU, especially if you want to use a few instances, and frustrating. So you know, it's another thing that Mark and I have been really vigilant on while we've been building it. I would say.
Absolutely. And again, that was the idea that, you know, you didn't have all of that processing. You know, you'd need 8 or 9, 10 plugins to do what that's currently doing.
Yeah.
So let's frame it this way, is nowhere near the amount of CPU required without it.
Yeah.
All right.
If you were to stack up the same, you know, individual plugins to create what we're creating here, that would be way more intensive on the
absolutely.
CPU.
Fair enough. And someone else is wondering if this does it support MIDI learn? So can we control this with our MIDI controllers?
That's a good question.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
And
that's one thing we haven't done, actually.
You know what? It's a very good question, and I'd be disappointed if it doesn't. So I will look into that one, and if you want to stay in touch with us, we'll get back to you about that.
Good question. Great question. Yeah,
it's a really good.
All right.
Fair
And
point.
another question is, can you change the LFO shape?
No, you can change. You can change the mix, and you can change the rate. Unfortunately, you can't change the shape.
So it's just is it a sine wave?
It's a sine
wave.
Yeah. We
version 2. Check
Indeed,
it out.
yeah, exactly. Featuring spring.
They're all really good questions.
Featuring MIDI learn, spring reverb, and shaping of the LFO.
Yeah, it's a good point, and you know, definitely something we can take on board.
No, these are great. You know, these are great because it's a learning thing for us. You know, it's the first time. We'll be honest. I absolutely shit myself when I put this out. To put it mildly, it's like releasing your first ever record 20 years into your career. So yeah, it was a lot of pressure. It took a lot of time, and you know, we nearly come out with it a few times, but we wanted this to be so right. But it is a learning process from us. We're super approachable. Is there anything you want to know? Please just hit me up on the socials with James. You know, we're super down to earth guys. We want it to work for you. We're here to help you as and where we can. If there are any things that are not quite right, or you want advice, or you've got ideas, you know, let us know. That'd be awesome. These sessions are great. Even that MIDI learn, you know.
Absolutely. And you know, in time, because we know there are going to be some incredible transitions and builders and programming, you know, from people that are going to be making these, we're definitely going to, you know, be looking to make packs and run competitions for you know, the best sort of, you know, transitional effects and everything else.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. That's all the questions for the moment. So if you've got more, by all means.
Great. Cool. Yeah. So let's have a look at let's see what Infinite is now doing on the master bus. So you can see here, this one is doing crunch, bit of delay, resonance going up, gain, sort of keeping control, high pass filter, LFO rate. So the LFO rate is changing. I want to keep that like that. So the LFO rate is speeding up towards the end of this build. Reverb going up, then tailing off, and a bit of white noise building the whole way through. So let's have a quick listen to that. So you can kind of hear everything that I was describing going on, you know, happening over the period of that transition now. There are a ton of different combinations we've put together for this.
Yeah.
That will give you all sorts of different, you know, risers, downers, etc., etc.
Do you know how many?
Sorry. No, go on, sorry, Joshua.
No, I was just wondering if you had people are wondering if you know how many presets does it ship with?
About 40. It's about 40 presets. Again, you know, what puts me off, I tend to find a plugin that I love, and then I just get overfaced with information. It's like, oh my God, did I like preset 312 or was it 314? I can't remember. And then you go, I'm not going to use that now because I can't remember it's too complicated. I've forgotten what it is.
Yeah.
So the idea is to keep it simple, keep it really usable, you know, not instead of making presets for the sake of making a preset that no one and with a pair of ears that are ever going to use, it's like these are actually, really well refined, as they distilled from real time instance in records into presets that work. I suppose that paints, we could go on forever and ever and ever here showing you what it can do. We've looked at it across a delay throw, we've looked at it across buses in terms of transition builds, breakdowns, build ups. The only other thing it does do, you can put it across sound to create effect. For example, James, if you'd like to, I'll let you do it.
I was actually going to build a little.
I was going to build one more.
I just transition, but we can do this. We can show you. We can find something that we can put it.
I think otherwise we could go on forever and ever. I can't. True. I just want to kind of keep it condensed and to the point. Sure. Otherwise, you could kind of meander off into. We could go on producing drops till we're blue in the face.
We also have James's in-depth tutorial was published on the Plugin Boutique YouTube channel today. So that was about a 20-minute long master class on Infinite for people who are interested in learning a bit more.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. So let's
So there's some sound shaping that you can do with Infinite as well. That's another aspect of what it can do.
Yeah, exactly. So you could take, let's find a loop that we
playing 16th. That kind of vibe. Yeah, we go.
So we could just put where is it on? Let's go here.
This is not actually your computer, is it? So.
Not actually my computer, so I'm moving my way a little bit. Okay, cool. So you can turn that up, nothing's happening because there's no effect on it. But now if I...
There's some presets as well, isn't there?
Yeah. I'm just doing them. This is already doing like a 16th, so. But if you wanted to do something that... And then you could duck it maybe. So it's...
Just add a bit of vibe to your hats, so you can use it in that way as well. And there's some presets in there that for this kind of stuff, just some interesting sound shapes. Not thousands and thousands, just some really, really usable sort of sound shaping effects.
Yeah, kind of like that, just to make stuff more interesting. And you could
have it bounce around a bit.
Yeah. So you can just use it as a sort of static effects processor, I suppose, on whatever you want to use it on. Use it whatever you like, whether it's bass or hats or an entire drums bus. We've got what have we got here? So we've got another 16th hat. Go from here. The Ball of Doom. Oh no, we're all right. Sound shapers. Here we go. Pop loop energy. And that's literally just adding a bit of delay and tape again.
Gives it a bit of spice, help it cut through the mix a little bit, So
you can go as crazy as you want. Depending on what kind of stuff you're doing. Yeah, and then we've created a few more that you can use. Let's go here, sound shapers. There's one for pads, which will kind of just make your pads move around a bit. vocal interest. I don't even remember what that one does. Does something interesting to the vocal,
Makes
clearly.
the vocal really interesting.
Great on perk loops, spicy synths, and top loop energizer. So we've just put a few to get you going, and then for you to start fine tuning yourselves. Really, a lot of the presets here are stuff that we love and we use. And from that stage, you can either just use it or fine tune it and make it your own.
That's right.
Yeah.
So those, I suppose, are the three instances of its use, really,
Yeah.
as a
Yeah.
creative delay, within transitions to create really interesting bespoke transitions that make you sound unique and stand out, and then as a sound shaping tool as well. So they're the three kind of ways you can use Infinite. But what, as I said earlier, what my blue sky thing and James's blue, that would be part of your your template arrangement you put across your buses. You go, okay, look, I know I've got to do that in this record. This is going to happen because I'm making a dance record. There needs to be some drama.
Yeah.
Let's have one calibrated preset that will do all the hard work for me, plugin that will do all the hard work for me, and it's already there for you. As I say, over the last 12 months, I'm going to say everything I've released has had it in. All those moments have been generated using this, because that's the best way to test it.
Yeah, likewise.
All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for coming by and giving us an in-depth look at the new plugin. Sounds amazing.
Pleasure.
I love the simplicity of the macro knob, obviously. I love the idea of having incredible presets to get you started or even just get you through the transition. I love the idea of when you buy the plugin, you're getting 4 plugins essentially, right? Maybe even more for the price of one. You can just use one at a time and just run it.
Yep.
So I think all of those are really, really great things to have in a plugin, and you've absolutely nailed it. And for your first plugin, gentlemen, well done.
Thank you.
As someone who is around plugins all day, every day, I can say that you've nailed it.
And
oh, nice one. Thanks, man. That means
really,
a lot.
yeah, thank you for having us on. And to everyone out there, we'd love to know when you're using Infinite on your tracks. Let us know. It'd be great to hear it in action.
You got to start a hashtag. What's the hashtag? What can the hashtag? Let's figure it out right now. Hashtag Infinite.
Me up, baby.
Hashtag Infinite Mix now or something.
Whatever you want, but or just send me a DM. Just say, look, I'm using it. Works really well. Send me a little video. We'll repost it across the channel. But, that's
hashtag Toolroom Infinite. I reckon.
Yeah, I think so. Just stay in touch. Let us know it's working for you. What you can do with it. What moments you've made in your records. We're intrigued to know.
Wonderful.
Yeah, definitely. Can't wait.
And for everybody that's just tuning in, we do have a bunch of video content already on the Plugin Boutique YouTube channel and more content on the way. If you're looking for more, again, in-depth tutorial-style videos about Infinite, the 20-minute long masterclass by James was released today, so definitely go check that out if you're looking for that sort of information. Is there anything else you guys want to shout out before we wrap up here?
No, I think
we've covered it.
Just thanks for taking the time to tune in and listen to Mark and I waffle on.
Indeed.
You nailed it. All right, fellas. Thanks again. Thanks everybody who's watching.
Thanks, guys.
We'll see you in a bit.
All the best.
Have a great evening.
See you. Bye.